يعطيكم العافية جميعا. راح يكون في عندنا هون موضوع جديد راح نحكي فيه بمجال project management، وراح نحكي عن الكوميونيكيشن إن شاء الله خلال هذا الشابتر. فالبروجكت communication management لها خلال الشابتر راح يكون في عندنا فهم نوع من الفهم عمق لعملية الكوميونيكيشن بالبروجكت. هنشوف البروسيس by identifying stakeholders، راح نعمل step explaining the elements of the project communications, various methods in distributing project information, and you have to recognize importance of managing stakeholders, understanding how performance, various methods for improving project. At the beginning, we have to know the importance of good communication. Again, know good greatest threat many projects the failure to communicate. أو من أكبر المعضلات الموجودة عندنا أنه يكون في عندنا أخطاء بعملية الاتصال ما بين الأشخاص أو البارتنرز الموجودين بنفس الجو. هلا إيش الأهمية لتواصل الأشخاص مع بعضهم بالستيك هولدرز؟ طبعا هذول الكالتشرز تبعتهم تختلف، بلس إنه الكالتشر الأي تي بروفيشنالز ممكن تعمل good communicators but for others no. So IT professionals maybe could have the ability to communicate in good way but others no. السبب زي ما بنحكي إنه ممكن يكون في عندنا إحنا معلومة أو معرفة بأمور الآي تي كبرمجيات كتولز ممكن تساعدنا بعملية التواصل مع الآخرين. بالبروجكت communication management process إحنا بنروح ضمن process معينة بنعمل identifying the stakeholders. حكينا أي شخص بيشارك بالمشروع هو stakeholders. for anyone, any person in the project you have to identify it, give it the role and give description about this person. Finally planning communications. نعمل البلان. حكينا بالنهاية عبارة البلان هي عبارة عن document. هذا document تحتوي information أو determine information about the communications needed about between stakeholders. Distributing information how you can distribute بمعنى المعلومات كيف بدك توصلها من partner للآخر أو stakeholders. The stakeholders expectations اللي هي managing communication to satisfy the needs and expectations of the project stakeholders. So stakeholders, what they want, complete their task, complete their work, so they have to have it. Reporting as a final step, and this is talking about performance, so we have to collecting and disseminating performance information about management plan, communication management plan which we have. Now we have different stakeholders in a project. So we have to be careful when we are dealing with these such stakeholders because we expected many of people, different cultures, with different IT professionals, with different way of. So we have to identify these stakeholders from the beginning, plus give a description of these stakeholders and the role, what they are doing during the project. So we have two outputs by identifying stakeholders. The first one, which is the stakeholder register, and this is a document. It includes details related to identify the project stakeholders, and we have stakeholder management strategy and the approach to increase and support stakeholders to communicate through the project. So we have two as an output for identifying stakeholders, and this is two documents, one of them having the name for all stakeholders there exist in the project, and another one, the strategy we want to use it to encourage them to communicate. This is sample stakeholder analysis. We have the stakeholder name here, document name, and we have document format and contact person who is it, and then due which he has to submit. So these are documents related with the stakeholders here. So stakeholder here, we're giving the representation or the professional name of their role. We give what kind of document and the name of this document he has to submit. Document format, it's a hard copy, meeting, email, whatever it is. Contact person, who's the person corresponding to this to be done. And finally, what is the date it has to be finished and submitted, due date. So communication management, we have in doing our communication management process, we have to do a communication requirement. So what kind of things we want to have to do our communications in the best way. الأشياء اللي ممكن نمتلكها إن يكون فينا communication بأفضل طريقة. So even information to be communicated, what kind of information it has to be transferred from one of the partners to other, or between stakeholders. So this kind of information, which kind of format it has to be in, the content is how you write it, and the level of details you want to give for others. And even we have the people who will receive the information and how will produce it, who will produce it, sorry. So مين الشخص اللي راح يستلم هذه المعلومات، أو مين الأشخاص اللي راح يتعاملوا معها هذه الدوكيومنتس أو هذه الانفورميشنز وكيف شغلهم بناء على produce it. So suggested methods or technologies for conveying the information, and finally we have some kind of suggestions about the methods that could be used for communications between different stakeholders who are exist there. In communication management also we have a plan contents, and this is as a continue for the first, the second process in management, communication management. So we have frequency of communications, how many times we have the team or the stakeholders had they had to do a meetings and certain meetings. And even though frequency of communications, it's supposed to be explained from the beginning if it's face-to-face or online meeting. Escalation procedures for resolving issues. We have also to explain some kind of issues that procedures that can solve the problems or the issues with which can be what could happen during our project execution. And we have revision procedures also for updating the communication management plan. So our management plan has to be updated continuously during the project lifetime or execution of the project. And finally, we have in our plan content, we have a glossary of common terminology. So all the keywords and its meaning that's related to our project and what they mean exactly. And now distributing information, how we want to distribute such information among your stakeholders who are working with a project. So we need to know how to send the right information to the right people, how much details this information has to be. And we have to send this information in the right time. So it will be something that's useful to be used by others. And this as important things you have to think about usually when we're having any project. So why we need to distribute information, we have two considerations about that. So we use technology to enhance information distribution, and we have formal and informal methods for distributing information. So technology, it could be such as WhatsApp message through social networks or whatever of these things. So this is information distribution and using technologies, emails. We can do a group in an email also, even so. But we also talking about these methods that could be formal or non-formal. So we said some kind of methods like email, it's a formal, but when we talk about a message and social network, we can say it's informal. So these two, we can say like these two considerations that has to be taken in mind before we distribute the information, how we decide how to distribute informations in an effective way and timely manner. So we have to always be careful to critical informations in a way that is timely. That means you send information to the right person at the right time, so that the person can use that information during the next phase of his work. Don't be afraid to report bad information. So even if you have good or bad information here, you have to write in your report. You have to send to others and let them know about this information. So don't be scared about that or afraid if you're having some kind of bad information or bad result in your report. Even oral communications through meetings and informal talks could help in giving some kind to bring in the important information from others, from the talkers. So it can be good and bad at the same time. How that happened. So oral communications could help the one side to get some kind of you can say comments, advices, and directions to help them to go through the work and finish it yearly within the time and within the expected result. But at most also, maybe you have to be careful about the person you talk with him. So that person, he could be not a good one who can give you the advice or can give you, maybe he is not getting exactly what you mean by the talk, and he maybe not take all the situations in correct way. So we have to be careful during our oral communications. Even it's important of face-to-face communications, why we need that kind of communications like meetings or as we said, like stop talk. We see that before this time in one of the examples. So researchers in their research, they find that face-to-face interactions and 58% of communications is through body language. So we have to focus on body language in this one, even and through how the words are said and the way you talk with others is affected. And 7% of communications is through content or words that are spoken. So if you look body language, the way you are talking or saying the words, and finally, so just only 7% for the content or the meaning of the word. So this is why it's very important for face-to-face communications, because people, they have to, or stakeholders, they pay attention more in sometimes in not like they pay attention more than just the actual words to the body language or to the way they said the words. So voice, body language, they are very important thing that could help other stakeholders to get information from you, or they how to communicate correctly with you. Now, so to encourage more face-to-face interactions, we have to do some kind of short and frequent meetings. We can stand up meetings, force people to focus on what they are really need to communicate. And some companies have some kind of policies preventing the use of mail between certain hours or even interdays of the week. So you can put some kind of policies also to redirect your team to make a face-to-face call rather than just using an email or what other ICT technologies that could help them to communicate with other stakeholders. So encouraging, it means that you having frequent meetings. It could be short, frequent meetings. And when we say the frequent meetings, it means that you do the meetings like frequent and if in short time, like you don't need to spend long time to meet with each other. No, it's a short intervals to have the meeting regularly, like weekly, or we can set like daily, and it's up to you, depend on the project you work in. And we again said that meeting, like a stand-up meeting, force people to focus on what they really need to communicate. You need to give the idea for other people, stakeholders, about the importance of having face-to-face meetings and why they need such meeting. And we talk about companies that put some kind of policies that prevent others, that prevent employees. So when you put this kind of policies, you prevent employees or stakeholders from sending an emails or using ICT technologies or whatever from other ICT technologies that could help in communications. So when you prevent them, they will be back to do face-to-face meetings. So other considerations can taken in our mind is about interpreting message exactly as the sender intended. So we have to be careful about that, because sometimes you can get a meaning of the message is absolutely different from what the, or you interrupt the message in a way absolutely different from how the sender or the talker say that message. So we have to be careful about that. And mostly you need to repeat the message in your language, in your way, and you said, yeah, you need 1, 2, 3, 4, or you said 1, 2, 3, 4. So if there's any mistakes or you interrupt the message in a different way or in a way that is absolutely going behind what the center said or what Taka said, it will be a chance to correct that misunderstanding or missing. Another thing, geographic locations and cultural backgrounds, all these things affected, and it makes the communications between stakeholders as more complicated thing about in a project. Because each one of the stakeholders has its own culture, it has own background, it has own geographic locations. Here we mean that different time zone. So some people they have we can say like daylight, and others they have day night. Maybe they have different hours between them. Some of them they are in normal work days, but others they are off work. And we can look for geographic locations also about we can look about the breaks and the holidays, which is absolutely different from one of the team to another stakeholder, to different stakeholders. So these 2 points we need really to take in our consideration and to think about that and to solve it. So as we said, it's different working hours, it's language barriers, it's different cultural norms, even though. How we can determine the number of communication channels we can use it. So what do you mean by channels? It's the different way the stakeholders communicate with each other during the project. So we can set like email as a channel. We can set documents, PDF documents, which is written as a report and the printed is a channel. We can set WhatsApp is a channel. So these different channels we needed. How we can determine the best number or the number can fit in a project and doing a good result. We have a formula which is said as the number of communication channels is equal n multiply n minus 1 over 2, and n is the number of people involved in the project. So if we said like we have 10 people in the project, so it's 10 multiplying 9, and it's 90 divided by 2, it is 45. So we need at least 45 times to do a meeting or to communicate with each other as a stakeholders to have a good result and work in a project in a good way. So this is an example. Here we're giving in 2 people here, and even in this means we have one. So we have number of communications, and that examples was 45 communication channel. It could be, but here we have an 1 communication channel. So this is 4 people. So it is 4 multiply 3. It's a 12 divided by 2 is 6. So it's a 3 here, 3 multiply 2 divided by 2, and it's a 3. So this is the number of channels we need to use during our project execution time. Managing stakeholders, how we can manage our stakeholders, it's you have to, as a project manager, understand and work with the various stakeholders. We said they are coming from different background, different cultures, different geographic religions, and all these things affect on these stakeholders. So as a project manager, this is your responsibility to understand all these things about various stakeholders you are dealing with. You need to devise a way to identify and resolve issues. You have to do that, and your expectations management matrix can help clarify expectations. Yeah. As a project manager, also you need, or and we can say in the project and managing stakeholders the process, you need to build something is called management expectation management matrix. And this is an example of this matrix. It has measure of success, priority, expectations, and guidelines. So, an measure of success is we can say like the 3 constraints of the project is scope, time, cost, and the quality as one of the things which is important for measuring the successness of the project. So usually when we said like project is success or fail, we focus on the three constraints and we added the quality also as another thing. Now we're giving a priority. We said before this time, sometimes like taking more little bit time is not some big deals. So the priority here is giving for quality, and number 6 is giving quality. So it's the most important one. So this is what we mean by expectation management matrix. So what you can expect in your management, which one you're giving them the priority, how you can measure your success, and you explain your expectations and the guidelines for that. Okay, so this is what we expected in this one. Now reporting performance. Almost this is the last step in the process. And in reporting performance, we have different kind of reports that can be giving as an output for this step. We have a status reports, we have progress report and forecasts. For status report, we describe the project stand at a specific point in time. So you're talking about exact point of time during your implementation. A progress report you giving a project team has accomplished during a certain period of time. So you're having an interval. That means you have start and end date, and you have like exact dates you want to talk about them. And for forecast, you talk about the future project, the future, predict the future for the project status and progress based on past information and the trends. So you can talk in your reports about your single point of time right now, what's going on at specific points, or it could be like before this time. And you have about intervals, and you talk about the team and what they accomplished during this interval, or you talk about forecast, and this is it's a prediction of a future a project status. What's the status, future status of the project, and what you predict about that according to the current information you have right now. So this is reporting. For improving project communications, we have some kind of advice we can giving for the project managers. So manage conflict effectively. One of these advice we can say like you have to develop better communication skills. Now, usually in communication skills is not something easy. You can get it an easy way. And in course before this time, you learned about communication skills, and you learned how that many companies they are failed or they lost a lot of money according to communication skills a problem. So in United States, they spend $1 million just training your employee how to do a communications in good way. So it's really very important to work in your communication skills as a team, not just as a manager. Now we have to do some kind of effective meeting, and this is really one of the needs we needed. And we have to use email and other technologies effectively. So you have to use something which is in technology to in communications, and in this way you do two things. First thing is for speed. It's fast to send email from one person to another. And another thing for documenting, that means when you send email, this is document that you prove yourself, you prove that you send the right information to the right person at the right time. Even you can use a template for project communications, which is better. So if you have a template for your communications between stakeholders, will be more comfortable. Now, how we having some kind of conflicts, handling modes. We have something which is called confrontations. We have compromise and smoothing, forcing, withdrawal, collaborating. Confrontations, we say directly face a conflict using a problem-solving approach. So you have a conflict and you directly face that conflict. So by using this problem-solving approach and compromise, use a give and take approach. Smoothing de-emphasize areas of difference and emphasize areas of agreement. Foreseeing the win-lose approach. So here we're talking about different approach. We will not go like deeply in such this approach, and as at this point or at this moment, you are just requested to know as in general and not included in your exam to know about conflict handling modes, about the modes you could prepare with it. Conflict. We said before this time, conflict sometimes it's not good because you can't like you being in a trouble or a problem, but even it can be a good thing, because in conflict often produce important results. It could give important results like new ideas, but alternatives and motivations. We don't need people who are having the same way of thinking, this having the same ideas. No, a conflict some kind, giving a way to think deeply about the topic or what they are talking about. So which make chance to give more alternative things and maybe ideas, and even though so motivations to your work could happen. We haven't also for conflict, if we decided it's a good thing, we're talking about group think. A group think that means there are many people, stakeholders, they just thinking in highly, they are thinking in a way that make other all of them think in the same way. This kind of things to it has some kind of ethical standards of the group or whatever of these things. Now, research suggests that task-related conflict often improves team performance, but emotional conflict often depresses team performance. How we can use the email and collaborative tools effectively? Make sure that email is having instant messaging, or collaborative tools are an appropriate medium for what you want to communicate. So at the beginning, you need to let others know that you want to use the email as an informal method to communicate with them. This is one thing. Your email, when you send it, you have to be careful. We talked about email before this time, maybe in different classes, like communication skill class, and we said you have to be very careful. Don't say the bad things in email. Don't send emails that talking about your emotional feelings. Usually you have to be formal that email, and remember always that emails exist and no one can delete. You can delete something you send it. So for that, you have to be sure that this email is you send it to the right people or right person to get that information. And by the way, that email as a subject line, usually has in the subject line, the subject line has to be a meaningful limit with the content just in the email, and has to one mail subject. And as much as you can, it has to be like within a subject that is clear and short to be sent for others. But finally, we said you have to be careful to authorize the right people to share and write and edit collaborative documents. So usually sometimes you're sending by the email attached document, and these documents you're giving the right edit permissions, and so you have to be very careful to who, like which people you send these permissions. You have to send these permissions to the right people exactly. Some of examples of collaborative tools, we talk about three examples here. SharePoint portal, we have Google Doc and Wiki. Google Doc, as you always dealing with it, you have more with it by default with your email. So you can go to that place and you find like in files, it's look like documents, which is like Microsoft, but it's related to Google company and it's online. You can write, create, update, whatever do with this document, and you can share it with others so they can do their changes in that documents. Now for Google document, you have many kind of documents. You have document for editing like Word, you have spreadsheet like Excel, and you have presentation online, even so like PowerPoint, which you can have by Microsoft. For SharePoint portal, this portal allows users to create custom and websites to access documents and applications stored in shared devices. And this kind of SharePoint point portal, we can find many different applications about this kind related to this kind or can get this benefit from it. Wiki is even a website designed to enable anyone who accesses it to contribute or modify web page content. Wiki help you to help all participant stakeholders, or we can say stakeholders, to make a change or modify web page content. Why we talk here about web page content? Because usually each project has a site, and that site has all documents going as an output from the milestones or project or lifetime of the project during its execution. Now we can say it's very important for us to have a template for project communications. So now many of people, special and technical peoples, they are afraid to ask for help. So it's nice to have a template how you can doing communications in a good way. So we can solve such a problem. Even providing examples and templates for project communication saves times and money, because exactly the template has the most important informations and how it's ordered, from where this is coming as a message and is going to whom, what's the purpose of that message, and even what kind of another information we need to have it in such template. Also, organizations can develop their own templates. We don't need to have, it is not necessary to have a template that is used by all organizations. No, you can have your own template, but you need to make sure that that template has the most important information you needed to appear during that project communication. So as example, as we said, from to was the purpose, date, sent by it. So some provided by outside organization or some samples from textbooks. So you can find some examples here in the textbooks as if you want to look at more templates or examples of templates for project communications. So we can find many different things. This is one of the examples. You can find it as you see that project description, project X is the name of it. There's a project, the objective, that one, scope, assumptions, the cost, schedule, and go down. We have the project work breakdown structures, and it's the time frame, how it's going and how it's executed. So this is a project description we can set and a sample. When we talk about a template, it's not necessarily just for project communications. It could be for different things can be used with it. Here's sample template for monthly progress report. So this is, we can set like project description. This is monthly report progress. Here, final project documentations, items, what kind of items you have by the end of your project. And as I said before, this time, this kind of documents, it could be published by a website related to that project. And finally, you have a lesson learned report, and this lesson learned report, your team member, as a manager and your project team member, you have to, we can set collaborate with each other and just discuss what kind of lesson you learned, and you reporting that lesson you learn. Reflective statements of the documents, important things as individual learned from working in the project. So we have reflecting statements in even within the lesson learned report also. Project manager combines information from lessons learned report into a project summary report. So we got lesson learned, different reports, and from different stakeholders, and the project manager just combine these all in just one document, and it's called the project summary report. Project archives here in this kind of we can say like in this kind of project step or process, or we can say this kind of execution, something you have to do during your lifetime of your project is archiving. That means it's very important to prepare your project archive, which has all the documents that's being as an output of your project. So all organized, the project recorded, and we can say saved. Sometimes we have a history of these documents. So what that mean? For example, if I have version 1 and it has again some kind of review, I got another version 2. Yep, it's mostly even saved within the archive. So archive can give more valuable information and wealth of information about future project as well, not just in your current project, it help also in your project. As we said before, we have project site. When we said we can do on a project website to store important product documents and other information. So most of your information could be published over there at their website, and that website has all the public information. We have to be careful about this point, public information. So you don't put your private information in the website, you just put the public, the information you want to share with the public people. So that kind of information can be there, and you can create your site, different kind of various type of softwares. You have examples here like enterprise project management software. We can use WordPress. You can build your website from scratch by using HTML language and Cadence style sheets. So this is Microsoft Office Enterprise Project Management, and I think most of you are working with such a program or tool during the lab 1, and you know that tool could help you to make your project management easier and help you do that. So if you look here to the panel, which is in the left side, you can see different, we can say like tabs, and under each tab we have different lists. So during this, while here in the middle, you have the project name in the beginning, and then you have summary task and the other subtask which is related to it. Project schedule status, project cost status, start, finish date. And if you want to go and look more, this percent of completion of the work, you have the resources assigned of this task and many other information. Microsoft Enterprise Project Management could help you to manage your work. These days we have these tools as an online, and mostly they are commercials. You can find some limited number of functionalities which is given for free, and you don't need to pay for that functionalities. But for others, you have to be careful that you need to pay to get it. One of the good things with the online tool for communications, it have a good system for communications. You can add the name and the email of the stakeholders, and you invite them to be with you in such an online page, and you can contact them during your project, giving them a task, notes, ask for something, and you can find all many different functionalities can be doing with them. Why you need to use a software to assist in a project communications? So why you don't do that just directly? Because it's very important for us to having these softwares. Let's see these points which explain why that is a need. In the beginning, software tools, they have many software tools that help in project communications, give us some aid. And we have many people telecommute or work remotely at least part-time. So you are, let's say, the first one, having many software tools. This is one. The second thing, some people, they are working part-time. We can set also project management softwares, which is many software tools included, like right now having it. It's include a new capabilities technologies to enhance virtual communications. As I said before, the online tool, which is related to Microsoft, to give you a chance to build a good communication way with other stakeholders. And even new tools such as instant messaging and the blogs can enhance project communications. We don't just depend on the software tools that is, we can say, developed for just project communication. Even we can use the other tool like such this tool can be used on social networks or even in normal life like instant messaging or blogs or Facebook messengers or whatever kind of CLT technologies could we use it. So this is why we usually using a software to assist. Finally, you have some kind of points you want to look at and you want to make sure that you get all these points in correct way. So I recommend you just to go through this slide and make sure that you get the main process, the main ideas was giving in this slide. For here, we are done and we thankfully for you to attending this video. And if you have any questions, we will meet face to face in class by next week and we can answer all the questions you needed.